Okay, Chair, we're live on YouTube. I'll hand over to you.
Right, thank you very much indeed, Sarah. Good morning and welcome to the meeting of the Placemaking in Exmouth Town and Seafront Group on Tuesday the 18th of May 2025. I am your Chair, Councillor Nick Hookway. I would also like to welcome anybody watching the meeting via live streaming. May I remind colleagues that the Code of Conduct applies throughout this meeting. We also reserve the right to remove and disconnect any participant who is disrupting the meeting by whatever means. Please turn any telephone devices off or to silent. In the event of a break in the internet connection, please bear with us as we try to reconnect. After 15 minutes, if we are not able to reconnect, we will consider this meeting adjourned and reconvene at a later date. Should you wish to comment, please raise your electronic hand and wait to be called. We will now start this meeting by doing a roll call of committee members here present. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. We'll start with yourself, Councillor Hookway.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Hayward.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Olive. Councillor Aurora Bailey hasn't joined us yet. Councillor Dumper. Councillor Davey.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Matt Hall.
Present.
Thank you. And from Exmouth Town Council, Councillor Deasy.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Whibley. Okay, I can confirm that we're correct, Chair. I'll pass back to you.
Thank you very much indeed. So agenda item 1, minutes of the previous meeting held on the 10th, previous meetings held on the 10th of December 2024 and the 10th of February 2025, pages 2 to 6. Do any members of the committee have comments on these minutes of previous meetings held either on the 10th of December 2024 or the 10th of February 2025? If so, please raise your electronic hand. If there are no hands raised, I will take it that you're happy that the minutes are received and noted. I cannot see any hands, Sarah, is that correct? Right, okay. Right.
Yeah,
Okay. So agenda item 2, apologies. Sarah, do we have any apologies, please?
yes, from Councillor Anne Hall.
Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. This will be done by roll call. When a name is called, please state your declaration, including which agenda item your declaration relates to. State exactly what the interest is and the specific type of interest that you are declaring. Sarah, thank you.
Thank you. So yourself, Councillor Hookway.
So agenda item 7, 8 and 9 affects ANI. I'm a member of Exmouth Town Council.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott.
None, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor Hayward.
None, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davey, please.
Same as Councillor Hayward. Affect.
Councillor Hookway, you mean? Not Councillor Hayward.
Sorry, yes. Member of Exmouth Town Council, that's relevant to 7, 8 and 9. That's NRI.
Thank you. Councillor Matt Hall, please.
Affects NRI for agenda items 7, 8 and 9 as an Exmouth Town Councillor.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Deasy.
Sorry about that. No, I'm just here representing Exmouth Town Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so agenda item 4, public speaking. There are no members of the public registered to speak. Agenda item 5, matters of urgency. There are no matters of urgency. Agenda item 6, confidential and exempt items. There are no confidential or exempt items. So that leads us on then to our main business. Agenda item 7, update on the Exmouth Placemaking Plan Review, pages 7 to 28 on your agenda papers, and I'll now ask Rachel Patworth to lead us through this item, please. Thank you. Rachel, over to you.
Many thanks, Councillor Hookway. Good morning, all. So I'm going to do an update on the first, or the first 2 of the 3 agenda items here. So I'm going to pick up on the placemaking plan first. So we obviously know this placemaking plan has come forward to a number of PEPs meetings over the past 12, 18 months or so. The draft Exmouth placemaking plan was considered at the PEPs meeting on the 31st of July last year. And following this and officer engagement workshops, it was agreed that the plan would be refined to support the future delivery of the projects. Prior to the December PETS meeting, a delivery strategy was prepared to show the process required to allow the adoption of the placemaking plan in the summer of this year. And I'm pleased to say we're now moving forward towards that. Unfortunately, sort of over the early part of this year, we have had a few challenges engaging with the consultant appointed to deliver the work. However, they are now fully engaged. We've had some initial meetings with them and works are getting underway, which is a really positive step forward. The next steps are for us to arrange workshops with the PETS group and with key stakeholders, and I'll come on to talk about those key stakeholders in just a moment. And these will be arranged for early May after the county elections. We'll also undertake some public engagement via the Commonplace portals, so we're considering the way in which that unfolds and the exact timing of that over the coming month or so. The intention is that the updated placemaking plan is brought forward for adoption in August, so we're still on plan for a summer 25 adoption of the plan. And our real focus for the plan is that we ensure that we have deliverable projects. So we're looking at opportunities for short, medium and long-term delivery and trying to really secure some support, some engagement, some buy-in for projects that are and can be delivered. So that's the sort of objective for us moving forward in regards to the placemaking plan. Councillor Hookway, I think that's agenda item 7 covered off. Are you happy for me to move straight on to?
Well, no.
Hold on.
We must give members the opportunity to ask questions, if they could per agenda item. I don't see any hands raised. Welcome to Councillor Bailey, by the way. Thank you. Councillor Bailey, did you have any declarations to make?
Hello, Chair. Sorry, I had trouble getting in. My technology doesn't seem to work on the placemaking. I've got in eventually.
Yes.
Only that I'm an Exmouth Town Councillor as well as a District Councillor. Thank you,
Yes.
Chair.
That's
And
fine.
sorry, I'm late.
Please don't apologise. It's good to see you. Don't worry.
Thank you.
You look,
Thank you very much, Chair.
You're sounding and looking fine here, so don't worry. Right. Okay. So there's only one question.
Sorry to intrude. Councillor Dumper has joined as well. You may want to ask.
Oh yes, thank you. Yes, Councillor Dumper. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to declare my interest as a town councillor too.
Right,
no questions on, and sorry for lateness.
Okay, happens. So we only have one question. That's Councillor outside the committee. That's Councillor Barlow. Ian.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered, challenges with engaging with the consultant. What challenges did we have? Did they not answer their phone, or are they just not interested, or what were the problems? Because obviously we've slipped 2.5 months now, I think it is, in 3 months. So yeah, not a brilliant start.
Not a brilliant start, no, admittedly. We've had a change in personnel from that consultant, and managing to speak to the previous party. So it's the same consultant, just different individuals within their organisation, and unfortunately managing to speak to the party who was previously involved to get the new party involved proved extremely challenging. So we started that dialogue in December, and we sort of reached a good way forward at the very end of February, beginning of March. So it took a prolonged period to engage in those conversations. We had, I see Tim's got his hand up. We had some really positive meetings with the new team last week. They are very committed. They're very responsive. So I'm very hopeful we're over that hurdle and we're now moving in the right direction. And we've given them a very clear steer that we need to be delivering in line with the timeframes that we've set out here today, with a plan ready in the summer of this year. So
yeah, thank you very much. And also where it says that obviously this plan is ready for adoption in summer, we're starting to cut it fine summer now, because obviously August is the end of summer. Are we confident that you are actually going to get this done by then? Are they confident that we'll get this done by then?
Well, I don't think we can ever be truly confident, Ian. We must not hold ourselves hostage to fortune, but we're certainly moving in the right direction. And I think your issues about consultants are always of great concern. And I did express my concerns to officers earlier on, and I'm very pleased to hear that matters are now progressing in a positive manner. Thank you, Ian. Okay.
On the contract, do we actually?
You've had one question, Ian. Thank you very much. We need to go to Tim now, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just coming back on Councillor Barlow's first question. So, and yeah, Rachel's correct. So we had a initial sort of project meet with the new project team last Friday. I was in on that meeting along with Rachel and Marie. Spent probably the best part of 3 or 4 hours with the consultants. Really, really positive meeting. I think probably the key messages really are we wanted to move forward in a slightly different way. However, we wanted to absolutely acknowledge the really good work that had been done by the consultants to date. Yes, there were some gaps that we needed to fill, and we needed to, but fundamentally, the bulk of the work that was done was really, really good. So from my perspective, we've now got a project team on board who, yes, includes some new faces, which is really, really good, but it also includes some familiar faces. And of the two consultants who met with us on Friday, one was a familiar face, one was a new face. So I think we've got a really good balance there in terms of sort of some new ideas, new way of doing things, but also with some consistency, pulling in people who've been involved previously. So yeah, I sort of shared some of those sort of concerns regarding the delay over recent months, but I was, I felt a lot more comfortable following Friday's meeting.
Thank you very much indeed, Tim. That's very reassuring. Thank you. Okay, so thank you. So then we'll go on down to agenda item 8, the governance strategy. Rachel, over to you. Please, members may wish to have a look at the chart that's part of the paper. So, okay, Rachel.
Thank you, Councillor Hookway. Absolutely, there's a report as a part of the agenda pack that sort of really sets this out, and there's some stakeholder mapping, some sort of Excel tables within that report that might be helpful to have in front of you. But I'll take you through it at a high level, and I'm happy to take any questions, obviously, afterwards. So we pulled together a governance strategy for the placemaking plan at the end of last year, early this year. And the aim of the strategy was to set out and show the existing governance arrangements that have been in place in regard to the placemaking plan. So those existing arrangements involve some key stakeholders, which I think all of whom we know about, but obviously the PEPs group, all of us here today, portfolio holders at East Devon, Devon County Council, both their officers and their members, Exmouth Town Council and East Devon District Council officers. So we undertook a piece of stakeholder mapping to look at the levels of interest and influence of each of those stakeholder groups to try and make sure if they're as influential and as interested as we would like them to be. Having done that piece of work, at present, the one group really that are sat in the position we'd like them to be within that stakeholder map are the PEPs group, us here today, with high interest and high influence in the placemaking plan. East Devon district members are also noted as highly influential, but not as interested as would be desired. So I think we are, and we've sort of therefore classed that group of members as being neutral. And that's sort of based on the fact that there is clear support from East Devon members for placemaking in Exmouth. But I think there is still much further work to do around engagement and ensuring we have a consensus on what placemaking should aspire to achieve for the town. So there's a piece of work there, I think, with members to bring them to being fully interested and fully influential in the plan. Ideally, we'd have all of these key stakeholder groups as supportive of placemaking in Exeter. So in Exmouth. So as you get through the plan, you've got an initial stakeholder map there that shows the current status of stakeholders and a preferred position of all those stakeholders once we implement some recommendations. We obviously don't need everyone in the same box in that stakeholder map. That wouldn't give us the right mix, but we want everyone more influential, more interested in the plan. And that will really allow the placemaking plan to succeed. So as a result of the sort of initial piece of work we did around the existing arrangements, we identified that there's some reconsideration needed of the existing governance arrangements to make sure that we are engaging as we need to, and we've got the support that we need to, and everyone is aware of what's going on. So in order to improve the levels of interest and influence of key stakeholders, we made some recommendations through the government strategy. But they include a number of things. One is reviewing the frequency of these meetings that we're having here today to make sure that we've got engagement, representation, and also that we've got presentation of sufficient content so that we're gathering to report back points of interest that are helpful to you all. We also are looking at ensuring the correct level of engagement between the PETS group members, Exmouth Town Council, and it's great to see so many representatives here today, and Exmouth Chamber of Commerce if that is relevant at the present time or into the future. Also, I think we've talked about and recommended providing updates on the Exmouth Placemaking Plan at portfolio holder meetings for East Devon members to make sure that's a fundamental agenda item. Importantly, I think better engagement with Devon County and both their and this officers and members as two separate groups really. And this sort of refers to their placemaking and property teams and their highways teams. And we've started engagement with Devon County highways officers over the last sort of 2 or 3 months. They are very keen to be involved. They're very willing to be involved. They're offering feedback. They're engaging. They're joining meetings. So it's really great to have that support and that input from a highways perspective. Also better engagement with East Devon officer groups. So we've got 2 officer groups now formed with different representatives from different service lines within the council. We'll be meeting with them regularly. And finally, better and improved communication and engagement with the Town Council and the Chamber of Commerce. So the implementation of these recommendations will ensure that all key stakeholders move to being, as I sort of said earlier, move to being more influential, more interested in the Exmouth Placemaking Plan, more engaged, and therefore hopefully more supportive and more able to input into the development of the plan and the outputs that come through. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much indeed, Rachel. Right, so do we have any questions? Yes, Councillor Tim Dumper. Tim.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Just to say that I think that in terms of town council, and I mean several of us around this screen are town councillors, whether we're dual hatters or whether we're like Aurora and Graham, representatives of the town council. I think we would probably, in order to be engaged better, we would probably like to have some sort of full meetings of town councillors with people such as yourself, Rachel, or whatever from district, so that engagement can be better. I mean, I do appreciate that when we, in an earlier iteration, when we were actually doing this, we didn't get as good engagement from some of our town councillors as probably we should have done. The other point I'd like to make is where we are in the electoral cycle, which of course is coming up to county elections. It's very likely that elections bring change, don't they? And it's quite possible or likely that we will have a different group of people to deal with. And I would suggest that it might be having a big push after those elections. And the other very, very quick point I'd make is we do in Exmouth have the Exmouth Community Association, which I know Councillor Graham Deasy might want to comment on more. But I mean, there are a need for community organisations to be involved as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Good points there. Okay. Councillor David is next. Ollie.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just interested in how the sort of engagement, how the mapping was measured. I don't see any indication of the metrics, and I just wondered if it was kind of subjective or whether there was some kind of number of phone calls or meetings attended, or how you actually went about deciding what those levels were. I don't have an issue with any of them. I'm glad to see highways are involved, and I think the involvement of Devon County Council is crucial here. And we did talk about this some time ago, and we talked about having a sort of small group that would liaise with Devon County Council, and that never came off. And I just want to say, I appreciate this work needs to be done, and it is interesting to look at this governance review. But I think we need to be aware of how the general public are going to look at this anybody looking at this agenda would think, well, this is all very fine, but it's a lot of navel gazing. And when are we actually going to see some spades on the ground? So I appreciate this has to be done, but I think the sooner we start to see some kind of tangible work and benefits going on, the better. And I think it's crucial that we consider infrastructure in among all this. That's not necessarily just an issue for us, it's for everybody else as well. But we've got a big town here that's getting bigger all the time, and it really does have a lot of infrastructure issues, many of which we're well aware of and hear about every time our constituents are faced with yet another planning application. So, sorry, a list of questions there, but just how it was measured, and I suppose, you know, when we can expect to see some work on the ground, and also how optimistic you are, I suppose, that these recommendations can be carried out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I just want to, before we hear from Rachel, echo your comments, Ollie, about the involvement of Devon County Council Highways and also Devon County Council property and placemaking officers. That's, I think, a real step forward. So that's an important piece of progress. Okay, so just to reassure people, I have Councillor Deasy and Councillor Bailey asking questions, but we'll just let Rachel answer Councillor Davies' question. So Rachel, please, thank you.
No, of course, thank you, and thank you for the questions. And perhaps there should have been some commentary around how we undertook the stakeholder mapping. So, as you suggested, subjective, but subject to the opinions of a group of us as officers who came together and sort of looked at the positions of those parties, and that was very much based on input, engagement, and you know, obviously that engagement is a very much two-way process, and sort of, you know, levels of conversation, ease of direct access into each of those groups over sort of the last 12 or 18 months or so. So it's always very difficult to do a piece of stakeholder mapping because it is a subjective activity. You know, you put people in boxes, which is a very difficult thing to do, but hopefully we're there or thereabouts in terms of the level of influence and moving people forward. And I think I completely agree with your comments on it's very easy to write reports, and actually how do we make sure we deliver? How do we make sure we move forward? I think for me, one of the really important things of this piece of work is it has actually over the last 2 or 3 months allowed us to engage with the likes of Devon to think about how we're managing the project, moving the plan, the programme moving forward, to make sure that we're delivering as efficiently, as quickly as we can. So actually to have this framework in place should allow us to move forward more quickly, more efficiently with the decision-making groups there ready to go. As I said, Marie will update shortly under the next agenda item on the progress we've made with Queen's Drive Space and Beach Gardens, which I think is an exciting piece of work that we've done over the last 2 or 3 months. And we'll really, I think, start to see some output through the placemaking plan, which will set timeframes for things to get onto the ground in the next sort of after the beginning of May county elections. So we're a couple of months off, 6 weeks off, seeing some progress in terms of what it looks like, with a bit of a plan as to the timescale for the delivery of some of those aspects. The thing we are looking at, and which I'll just close out, but the thing we are looking at is some of the more short-term opportunities as well. So I'm very conscious that big capital projects take a long time, as I will attest to my sins. They're not a quick piece of work to deliver. So we are looking at trying to do some things that really make a difference in a short time frame, as well as some of those bigger opportunities for the longer term.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Rachel. That's very kind of you. So Councillor Deasy, Graham, your question, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, when I read the government's strategy, I was a bit concerned that the value being put onto sort of Exmouth Town Council seemed to me fairly low, and I was a little bit concerned about that. Councillor Dumper and Councillor Dave have actually raised a couple of the points I was going to But on the proposed stakeholder map, for instance, we are just categorized as a keep satisfied stakeholder. And that definition of that is that, that group of stakeholders not quite as interested, but are influential. I can assure you there's an enormous amount of interest from Exmouth Town Council. I think over the last year or so, perhaps longer, we've become terribly frustrated. There's been very little to report back to the Town Council as a whole. But please don't interpret that, if you like, as disinterest. There is, again, feelings in the town that we have things done to us and not with us and for us. And that is something that I don't want to occur with placemaking, certainly. And I think finally, I will say that Rachel and I have had correspondence, and we are going to be trying to set up regular meetings between Councillor Wibley and myself and Lisa Bowman and Rachel and possibly some of the officers, hopefully on a monthly basis going forward. But I was concerned that it just didn't read well that Exmouth Town Council seemed to be quite a long way down the pecking order on this proposal. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right. Well, I think we've absolutely noted what you've said, and we'll I think have another look at that, Rachel, and just see if we can just just make sure that everybody is clearly happy with that. Okay, thank you very much for those comments. That's well noted. So I'm going to go to Councillor Bailey next, who's been waiting patiently. Aurora,
thank you very much, Chair. As you know, I've been on this committee a long time, and it's not a question. Thank you, Rachel, for all your hard work, and Tim, Charles, thank you very much. It's a very difficult committee to be on. There is a lot of things to do, but obviously, looking at it from an Exmouth Town Councillor and the residents of Exmouth, it doesn't seem to be doing anything, which it's I know you are behind the scenes, but for the members and the residents, you can't see anything exactly what's happening there. My comment on it, Chair, is I remember when we used to have face-to-face placemaking meetings, it seemed to get more done because you were all round the table and you could speak. It was different to the Zoom meetings. I'm not a great lover of these Zoom meetings. I like face-to-face, and I think we got more done, and it was easier to talk around the table than it is to do what we're doing now. I understand life changes. The placemaking, I would like to see it moved. The next 2 or 3 years, things are changing everywhere. And, we need to at least do something now. And I know Rachel's doing really well with it. Thank you. That's just my comments. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Aurora. That's noted. Thank you. Right. Now, I've got a couple of other members with our hands raised. Thank you, members. But Tim, did you want to come back into a particular point, please?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I just wanted to really come back on the stakeholder mapping exercise. And I absolutely get, and I absolutely sort of understand where the comments that have come forward sort of come from, and how the public will perceive this as well. But I suppose just wanted to go really back to basics. So we as a district council have done a massive amount of work around developing a draft placemaking plan. However, what we concluded during the course of 2024 was that whilst we had done a lot of work, there perhaps wasn't that sort of wider ownership of this, both in terms of sort of key partners. So whether it be, and I have to say, this is probably less Exmouth Town Council, on the basis Exmouth Town Council sit on and are represented on the PETS group, but the obvious sort of missing was Devon County Council. But then alongside that, it's really sort of came to the fore, the importance of it being a corporate project across the council. So it not being a placemaking project that's delivered through one team within the council. This needs to be something that is bought into by the council per se, bought into key delivery partners at the town council, Devon County Council, and others. And in an ideal world, what we will have a placemaking plan that gets adopted later this summer, that ideally would be adopted by all key partners. So not just our placemaking plan, but it would be the placemaking plan for Exmouth. So therefore, it would ideally be adopted by the town council and also by the county council alongside ourselves. Only by doing it that way will it then get the traction to deliver. And I've heard lots said about the need to show delivery, and that's what the public want to see. Yeah, absolutely spot on. But the only way we're going to get delivery is to make sure that we get the stakeholder work done correctly and fully, to make sure that when we get to a placemaking plan that's adopted, we don't have others sort of looking in from outside and saying, well, I wouldn't have done this, or I'd have done that like that. This needs to be a shared plan for the delivery of placemaking in Exmouth. And I think it's really important that through that stakeholder mapping, through the work we do with stakeholders, that the public see that wider support, because fundamentally there'll be lots in here. There'll be some in this that's deliverable by the district council. There'll be some that's deliverable by the town council. There'll be some that's deliverable by the county council. But a lot of this is probably going to be deliverable by the private sector and private sector investments. And therefore, the private sector and investors need to have confidence that this is a placemaking plan that everyone has bought into. And for me, that will be the key success or failing of this, because you can have a plan that sits on a shelf, but it then needs to be delivered by the stakeholders and by the public, who arguably, or who are certainly another stakeholder within all of this as well. So it's probably a little bit of a sort of a textbook piece of work we had to do to sort of map out stakeholder engagement. But I would absolutely not underestimate the importance of that, because without getting that right, we get to a plan, we adopt a plan that's then not delivered, which is all the things I've just been hearing about that we obviously need to avoid. So I just sort of bit back to basics there, but I thought that was just useful to sort of explain the context. So thank you very much, Jack.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Tim. I think that's very important. Yes, we have, creating confidence is absolutely key here, and removing any form of uncertainty and having all stakeholders are on board with the plan is absolutely fundamental to this. And it has taken a long time, and it will continue to be a challenge without doubt. But nevertheless, we are getting there. Right. So our final question that I can see is from Councillor Arnott. Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Nick, very much. Yes, very briefly on this background, great report. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Tim, for the further elaboration on that as well around governance. Completely agree with you, Ollie, Graham, and I'm really glad that there'll be a bit more work to think about how Exmouth Town are put front and centre in this, and I have no doubt that you will make sure that that happens. A potted history, if you give me 60 seconds. First of all, when we became the administration, this committee in its current form didn't exist. Previous decisions on Exmouth were made in ways that were, let's just call, unsatisfactory. We've tried to make everything democratic and transparent. Unfortunately, quite early on, the work we had done around the Gateway project was in essence purloined away from us by county. And guess what? They've delivered nothing of that, and all of that money has gone to the relief road. But what we have done as a council, which we decided, and forgive me, Nick, it's been such a busy couple of months, I can't remember when the last cabinet was, last week, the week before, we have decided to, move ahead with positives. And I'm just trying to remember what was in part B, positive moves around the bus station, around the train station there. So we are doing things. I think the other purpose of this committee is to prevent very bad ideas that might otherwise have happened. However, we've turned the page. The governance piece of work is critical, and the most critical part of that, other than quite rightly beefing up Exmouth itself, it really is getting Devon County in there with us, in a room, members and officers on the same pari passu with the rest of us. That's been the missing equation. I know full well that members of this council have tried to engage with Exmouth members to bring them in, and it's just been a big fat no. I know that officers have also had difficulties in the past with Devon County officers. That era is now past as we move forward into what's likely to be a new administration at the county, and with these fantastic new relations that I think our officers have managed to establish with Devon. And just to underscore finally, Chair, what Tim has said, without this governance review, there is a risk that this may lose direction and impotence. With it, it gives it a nuclear rocket. Thanks, John.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that, Councillor Arnott. Okay, so Councillor Bailey, you've got your hand up, yes? All right, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make a comment. I understand what Councillor Arnott is saying. Just going back to the gateway, what we have to remember, Chair, that we did consultations for the gateway, and Exmouth residents decided, you know, what they wanted, what they didn't want. And obviously it was the subway. And that's the reason it didn't go forward. We have to remember that. So for once, the consultation was listened to, and that's what the Exmouth residents wanted. So therefore it didn't go forward. And we have to remember that gateway money is going to the Dinham Road to put in crossings and different things, the extra things they want on that road. So that money will be spent for Exmouth residents, but obviously in a different way. I just wanted to comment. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bailey. Not sure I entirely agree with you there, but there's a great deal of debate, but I'm not going to go down that route again. We've been there and done that one. Councillor Hayward, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Really just coming back on that point, as an outside observer of someone probably here who lives the furthest possible distance you could be from Exmouth, but has been keen to be involved in my portfolio capacity and also as a councillor, I recognise what Councillor Bailey says, but every decision about Exmouth creates immediately a polar opposite situation. Whatever this council has done, whatever it's proposed, whatever consultation is done, there is a group of people who immediately are in opposition to it. The town councillors quite rightly have views. They are a sovereign authority, as in my own sovereign authority, here might have a view on it, but they probably wouldn't. And so this really epitomises the difficulty that Exmouth has. It's the biggest town in East Devon with the biggest population, the biggest amount, I would argue, of tourists coming and visitors. So we have to offer something that delivers something for everyone, and that will inevitably split opinion. And so this committee, in all its various forms, and now under your chairship, Chair, I think is doing what it can, but accepting that it will never do what everybody wants. That's just an impossibility in local government, in any consultation. So it is evidence-based, and I'm actually quite heartened that we've had these frank conversations with our consultant. We touched on that earlier, and a decision has been made to ask that other officers and other personnel are involved, because if we're not getting the output and the cooperation we need, then we look elsewhere. And within that, we look elsewhere within that consultancy. But that's how consultations are done. We cannot please everybody. And so, yes, Devon have gone down a route. They consulted. Arguably, one might argue their idea was flawed at the outset, but that's the whole purpose of consultation, that an idea was put forward. So I think we just need to move forward positively and try and get the best outcome for Exmouth. And yes, we are in a very sensitive period. Councillor Bailey, your husband is standing to be a councillor. And I think this is the the caution here is that this becomes a political issue. And there are other issues within East Devon that are already being used for political ends, and I'm very sad to see that, but that's the nature of politics. And I'd much rather that this group concentrates on what can be delivered for Exmouth, keep the politics out of it, and everyone either make a declaration, and if you cannot make a declaration that's fair and honest, then you recuse yourself from the meeting and you don't bring the politics of the doorstep into the meeting, because we will never achieve anything if we're constantly looking at this in a partisan way. Everyone unifies, everyone cooperates and get the best for Exmouth. And I think that's the only way it will be done. And that's the only way, really, to be fair to the officers who, frankly, don't care what colour rosette councillors wear. They just want to deliver, and they don't want to be caught in the middle of a crossfire. So please, all of us, be respectful with each other and try and unify and get the best that we can. Because otherwise it's just going to be a constant doom loop of he said, she said, you've done this, you haven't done that, and we'll get nowhere, and we'll be sitting here in a year's time. So unify, cooperate, act collegiately, and I think we'll get a lot out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Couldn't agree with you more. Okay, absolutely spot on. Councillor Barlow. Ian.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I totally agree with what Paul has just said as well. And I just think it's a shame for, and again, I'm an outsider. I've had time to look through going back to 2010, and then obviously when this administration started 2019. It's just a pity that the sort of thing that you're now talking about, the plan that they put forward, is only being talked about 4 or 5 years afterwards, rather than sorting out, you've got to work with everyone 5 years ago. You know, that to me, it seems straightforward that you start at the beginning working out who you're going to work with, not 5 years into it after, I don't know how much money we've spent on consultants, and I don't know if anyone even keeps a tag on officer time. But again, it is good that you've now got everyone finally around the table, or got this plan together. And I hope that we can, and I know the chair doesn't agree that, but I think you should have confidence in what we're doing. I think we should have confidence in timescales. And I do think that a little bit harder dealing with certain consultants, if you're paying them good money, dates, and not just summer or whatever, certain dates that they need to perform by should be held. And if they don't do it, then they should have in their contract things that say, we don't pay you a percentage because you're not performing. That would be a standard thing outside of council, in the private world, whatever. If you don't do your job, you don't get paid. So I just think that much as you've got everyone on board now, you just need to, and again, Tim touched on, you're going to need developers, whether you like them or not, to come on. You're not going to keep everyone happy, but I think that's a great thing about politics. You get people interested in politics when they disagree with what's happened, and you're never going to keep everyone happy. So yeah, perhaps that's why no one's interested in local politics at the moment, because we don't seem to be delivering much. Anyway, there you go. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Ian. I do assure you that I have been keeping a close eye on what's been happening on with consultants. And I think officers have done a very good job to get them back on board. That's really pleasing news. I also, going on to what other people were saying, that we have a huge opportunity in Exmouth. I think that we have a fabulous town, and we just need to make sure that we get everybody realising what opportunity exists, because we need to have investment. And there are a whole range of issues, some of which Councillor David raised earlier on, a whole range of issues that as placemaking we could deal with and have a think about and present a plan. And yes, we've had a very long gestation period. There are many reasons for that. We could spend all day talking about that, but I think it's now time that we look forward, we move forward, and we have a plan that actually says what the town is capable of achieving and what investment we would like to see within the town, because I think that's a very important point too. Okay, so we've got a couple of hands up from officers, so we'll go to Tim, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can I actually suggest Rachel perhaps goes before me? I suspect she's probably going to say, but with a bit more detail, what I was going to say, which is around project plans with consultants.
Okay, thank you. Rachel, please.
Not just for summer. Okay, so Rachel will give you that confidence, I'm sure.
No, absolutely. So actually within your, I was just going to point out, within the report pack, there is we've called it delivery strategy. You can call it a project program. You can call it a project plan, whichever of those words you'd like to use. There's a timeline that sets out how we get to the end of the placemaking plan and how we get it adopted. So rest assured, it's not a summer. There is a date. Very final date for it is early August for the adoption of that plan. And we're working with the consultants to make sure we deliver that. You know, the reality is that unforeseen things do happen. So we have to have some reason in the back of our minds that we could be delayed. But as it stands at the moment, we don't see any reason for a delay against that timeline. So we're very much working to it. There's sort of 30, I think it's page 11 on the PDF document, there's sort of 30 odd lines of a plan that sets out how we get from A to B. Anything we can do to bring that forward, we will do that as well. But just to give some reassurance that the timelines are there, everyone's working to those timelines, there's commitment from the team to deliver against that.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much. Okay, I don't see any more hands raised, so thank you very much for that. So we'll now move on to agenda item 9, please. The update on the Queen's Drive space and beach gardens concept design, and we'll have from Marie Ainsworth. So Marie, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to give you a verbal update today on where we are with those two plans. So following the workshop, the members workshop, the PETS member workshop we had in January, end of January, to look at the draft plans as they were at that time. We received a number of comments from PETS members at that workshop. We then circulated the plans to other PETS members that weren't able to make the meeting and received 1 or 2 further comments. So the 2 draft concept designs, one for beach gardens and one for Queen's Drive space, are now being finalised and incorporating all of those comments taken on board. We're also in the middle of getting some cost estimates put against those plans. And I'll be meeting with a quantity surveyor later this afternoon to look at how we might phase those 2 projects. So rather than looking to potentially deliver everything on the 2 concept drawings designs, we will look to see if we can integrate some phasing. So it means that we can, depending on funding coming forward, we could deliver partial the schemes partially or in whole. So it's giving us different options on how those 2 designs could be delivered. But it's just worth saying that, reminding everyone that the concept designs are being taken to what we call REBA stage 2. So for those who don't know what REBA is, that's Royal Institute of British Architects, and that basically means they are concept designs. So we will hopefully present those completed concept designs to PETS members in April, so that we can show you what we've done and that we've taken on board your comments and look forward to what we do next. And I'm pleased to say that the concept design drawings will be completed by the end of March, which was our deadline, and we've utilised UK shared prosperity funding to get those delivered. So we've made really good use of those funds whilst they've been there. And I'm hoping that everyone will see the designs exciting and you know, that they'll change those spaces potentially for the better. I'm quite excited by the designs myself. I think that we've got some great ideas in there, and I look forward to presenting them with you all in April. So that's myself done. Thank you.
I'll start again. Thank you, Marie, for that report. That's very interesting. Okay, we'll go to questions outside the committee. Councillor Barlow, Ian.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder if non-committee members could see any of those plans, and also, are we engaging with finance to look at where possible funding could come from at this stage, or are we waiting till later on to start engaging with them?
Right, so the plans were showed to members in a workshop in January, and because we're part A we're not able to show those plans to the meeting today. Those plans will come back to another workshop in April, as Marie just said. In terms of finance, there's been no discussion about finance. We're just getting these plans ready as part of the overall placemaking plan.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Obviously, I'm not a member of that committee, so I just wondered if there was any way for any other members of the council to see those plans anywhere else.
Well, not yet. No, that's the answer. No, because we're still working through them. Right. So, Tim. Oh, Tim. No. Okay. So, within the committee now. So, Councillor Davey, Ollie, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I took part in the workshop on those plans, and there were some quite interesting ideas there, and I think we were all kind of pretty much of a view there. So I look forward to seeing the final draft of those. I just want to put in a plea, and I maybe should have said this at the workshop, is cycle parking. I was down there on Sunday on my bike for the Big Dip, the sort of protest event, although it wasn't much of a protest, more of a celebration really, on Exmouth Seafront, and I realised there was nowhere to park the bike anywhere nearby, and we need cycle parking regularly along the seafront. I ended up having to chain my bike and my wife's to a gate to one of the car parks. There's not even any cycle parking in the car park that I could see. So can we just not lose sight of cycle parking when we're looking at gardens and things like that? There's just not enough of it.
Right. Okay. Noted. Noted. Thank you, Councillor Davey. Yes. Right. Okay. A perennial point. Right. Okay. So that's before we finish the meeting. I have just remembered about recommendations on the plan updates and what we've been talking about. There are no recommendations to be presented. We are just noting the report, and so we don't need to do a vote on that. So the report is noted. Thank you, officers, for your work on that, and looking forward to the workshops next month. Right, okay, so that brings our meeting to an end, and I would like to thank everyone for their attendance. May I remind everyone that until the supporting officer confirms that we're no longer live, your comments will be heard and recorded.